Welcome back to PM with the Trigger, Rich Bontrager, and technical difficulties the last 2 days. We apologize for that. If anyone's out there watching the live stream here today, all my technical gadgets here tell me we're live, we're going along. I'd love to hear if you can hear me. So give me some love in the emojis, give me a little sign, drop in the chat if you would. I'd love to hear if you can actually hear us at 2 p.m. live. I had a great conversation by myself, so I'm going to go do it again. And we're going to hope that we're all streaming live here today. So we're going to give this a take two as we're remembering the wonderful producer, creator, writer, Norman Lear. Norman Lear passed away yesterday at 101 years old. Now, if you don't know the name Norman Lear, you might be a little bit of the younger generation, a writer, producer. He was an amazing award-winning, Emmy award-winning producer from the 70s and 80s with his main heyday. And I see chat boxes now lighting up. We're going to see what we got here. I hear you. Well, thank you very much. I don't know what's going on, but we're here right now. So we're going to keep going with it. And thank you for putting up with it. Share any comments, thoughts, memories of Norman Lear. If you're not aware of it, you're going to want to go Google some shows. Things like All in the Family, Maude, Sanford and Son, One Day at a Time, The Jeffersons, The Good Times. Those are all some of those big hit shows that Norman Lear was involved with. But when I talk about Norman Lear, I think of a great writer, producer, but also a creative man. And I really think as a modern day storyteller, media person, been in the business again for a long time, I've always looked back for the pioneers. I've always wanted to figure out what they did, what made them great, why they stood out. And Norman Lear was one of those individuals that, as great of a storyteller as Norman Lear was, he had a purpose behind his creativity. Now, there are those people, especially when I was growing up, there was people that TV was junk. It was over melodramatic. It was getting into religious and personal issues that it never should have got into. But that really didn't stop Norman Lear. Now, we're not going to get into his politics. We're not going to get into his political or personal beliefs spiritually. But he pushed at the soul of our country by doing things that no one else was doing on television at the time. And I applaud him for that. It drew you to the TV for not just a good laugh. And a lot of his shows were half-hour sitcoms. You would laugh. You would have a great time. And then all of a sudden, he would hit you with a punchline. And the punchline or the twist in the middle of the episode would make you sit up in your chair, like Archie Bunker's chair. And you would go, dang it. Now I got to think about it because it wasn't funny anymore. Now you got serious on me. And he challenged us in black and white relation, in male and female relationships, in roles and responsibilities, coming out of the Vietnam War. What are the important issues of life? As he wrote great, hilarious content, he would then turn it upside down and make you think through the power of TV and storytelling. He developed characters that radically shifted over the course of their episodic journey. Archie Bunker was a jerk when, when All in the Family first began. By the end of the whole thing, you can look at a man who's changed, and it changed with the conscience of a nation, of beliefs, realities, and relationship. Archie changed because he really did interact with the Jeffersons or African American neighbors, and they had dinners together. The relationship with Archie and Egypt changed over the years from just man and woman to in-depth love and marriage and sacrifice. Even Meathead, his son-in-law, who he did not like at all, he came to appreciate the wisdom and the insights that came through him. That's just one of the shows he did. And then one of my all-time favorite movies is Princess Bride. Talk about a creative movie. Princess Bride is a romantic adventure. And yes, there's kissing in it. If you've seen the movie, you know what that reference is for. But you have a young boy who's stuck home, sick in bed, and you have an iconic actor come in and read a fantasy book to his grandson. But over the course of the telling of this, the overall theme that came out through that wonderful adventure of no name actors at the time, at far fetched themes and idea, Norman Lear was the producer on that. He helped make sure the story, the actions told something more than just a romp and a laugh. It was all about true love. What is true love, and how far would you go for true love? What would you sacrifice? How long would you wait for true love to come back to you? And it goes on and on with the concept of true love. What if we had another modern day Norman Lear? Could TV and film handle it? Is there someone out there who wants to push the buttons? Not just to push the button, not just to tick people off, but is there someone out there that would like to have the country think again through the lens of the camera lens? Norman Lear did that. He found a platform where he could challenge us, make us think, sit up in our chairs, and even wrestle about it all week long around the office, around the water cooler. You would have that 1 week to think about what happened on Maud and women's issues. What happens with Good Times? And again, he made you think, even though you were laughing and crying at the same time. MASH did the very same thing. MASH was one of those great shows that had you laughing and laughing. And then Hawkeye or BJ or somebody would say something or realize it, and the whole tone of the show just changed. You had to sit there and wrestle with a moral dilemma, a personal dilemma. Norman Lear was not just a funny man. He was a creator. He was a challenger. He was a spokesman for a generation. He gave voice to it. He also received amazing awards, Primetime Emmys, 6 Primetime Emmys, a Peabody Awards, the National Medal of Arts, the Kennedy Center Honors in 2017, the Golden Globe Burnett Award, the Carol Burnett Award in 2021. He was also a Television Academy Hall of Fame. Yes, he was progressive. Yes, he talked about politics, religion, sex, when many other people would never, ever touch it on television or film. But we're better for it. I can remember the first time we go to the Smithsonian as a young child at 10 years old. I walk into the Air and Space Museum, and they have some movie and TV memorabilia in part of the wing. I can remember as a 10-year-old seeing the Starship Enterprise from Star Trek, and I freak out as a little kid with my older brother. I can remember when we did see some of the MASH set, and we saw the sign telling you which direction you were and how many thousand miles away you were. And even at 10 years old, I can remember walking through that same gallery and seeing Archie and Edith's chairs that they watched and had their TV dinners. And much of the debates and much of the conversations right around. Even at the age of 10, I knew that show was different. I did not understand it all, but I knew it was something more than a comedy. We need another Norman Lear. We're at a time in our society, in our world, where we need people to take the creative and bring life and bring voice to it, to teach us, to challenge us, to make us sit up and think. Currently, I've been watching The West Wing, going back through that series, very much the same thing. We live in a time of political turmoil and upside down. If you're a media person, if you have a podcast, if you have a streaming TV show, if you're wanting to create video content, why are you wanting to do it? There's a lot of many different reasons. And they're not all bad. But do you want to maybe be one of those people that raises the bar a little bit higher with the content, raises the bar a little bit higher with what the message really is about? Do you want to be maybe the new Norman Lear that writes something with a deeper purpose and meaning, but you use all the creative tools, everything at your disposal, and you awaken and challenge us the way he did? Norman Lear, writer, producer, activist, and a man that made a whole culture think many, many, many nights. We'll miss you, Norman. Dead at 101 years old. And thank you for inspiring a generation, inspiring me personally to not just do something for kicks and giggles and easy media stuff, but to be a storyteller with deeper meaning behind some of the stuff you put out. Hey, that's going to do it for today for 2 p.m. with the Trigger. I'm the Trigger, Rich Bontrager. Thanks for dropping in. Thanks for being here. And if you ever have questions, comments, drop them in the chat Add your thoughts to it or email me, rich@richbontrager.net. Keep the conversation going. Creativity is important. Storytelling is important in our generation, just like it was before. What are you going to do with it? That's going to do it for today. 2 p.m. with the Trigger. We'll talk.